Have you ever just looked up at the moon and thought, what if that thing just fell? It's a crazy idea, right? Well, the answer is way stranger and honestly more incredible than you could ever imagine. Okay, let's dive into this and find out.
So let's just picture this for a second. Imagine one day the moon just stops. All that sideways motion it has, just gone. And it starts a long, slow fall straight towards us. What would we, down here on Earth, actually see? What would we experience?
All right, so before we can get to the fun part of breaking all the rules, we gotta understand them first. So why doesn't the moon just fall on our heads already? Well, it all comes down to this really delicate dance between incredible speed and immense gravity.
Yeah, this whole idea of an orbit kind of messes with what you think falling means. It isn't about floating. It's actually about moving sideways so ridiculously fast that you constantly miss the planet you're falling towards. The moon, right this second, is in a perpetual state of falling around the Earth. Wild, right?
Think of it like this. You throw a baseball. It makes a little arc, hits the ground, easy enough. Now imagine you could throw it way faster. The arc gets bigger, right? It travels further. Okay, now imagine you could throw that ball at about 17,500 miles per hour with no air to slow it down. It would never hit the ground. It would just fall around the Earth forever. And that is exactly what the moon does.
So to actually make the moon fall would require a just unimaginable amount of energy. It would completely break the laws of physics. So for our little thought experiment, we're going to cheat. We're going to use a magic spell. Poof! The moon's orbital speed is gone. And with that, the countdown to the end begins. We have 1 year. And so our timeline begins. In these first 3 months, the chaos doesn't start with a bang. It starts with water. The very first and most dramatic thing all of us would notice is what's happening to our tides. Within just the first month, as the moon inches closer, its gravity intensifies like crazy. You know, a normal high tide is maybe half a meter. Well, now they're swelling to 4 meters. Every single day, these massive waves are just swamping coastal cities all around the world. By the end of month 2, things go from really bad to a full-on global catastrophe. The tides are now surging over 10 meters high. That's over 30 feet. This isn't just a flood anymore. This is the forced migration of maybe 1 billion people who live along the world's coastlines. And this is where our modern world just starts to unravel. It's like a domino effect. Every major port is underwater, so global shipping just stops. 95% of the internet runs through undersea cables that land on the coasts, so yeah, the internet goes dark. Saltwater is pushing miles upriver, poisoning our fresh water. Coastal oil refineries? Abandoned. Hello, massive fuel shortages. And to top it all off, the moon's gravity is now starting to pull our satellites right out of orbit.
We are now entering a whole new and frankly terrifying phase of this apocalypse. The water has done its worst. The focus now shifts from the oceans to the very ground beneath our feet.
Around month 5, the ocean tides pretty much hit their physical limit, surging up to 100 meters high. The oceans just can't go any higher. But the moon's gravity keeps getting stronger and stronger, and all that incredible energy, it has to go somewhere. So what happens? The planet itself begins to bulge. I mean, the moon's gravity is now physically squeezing and stretching the Earth's crust. It's creating these horrifying tides of solid rock. The consequence of squeezing a planet is as violent as it sounds. We're talking constant, massive earthquakes. The stress on the tectonic plates triggers enormous volcanic eruptions in places like Yellowstone and the Ring of Fire. And then something really eerie happens. The moon gets so close, its speed matches Earth's rotation. For half the world, it just seems to hang there, motionless in the sky, a silent, terrifying omen. We are now in the final desperate months. Organized civilization is gone. The planet itself is dying, and the moon is growing larger and more distorted in the sky with every single passing day. The world is now completely hostile. All those volcanic eruptions have thrown so much ash into the atmosphere that the sunlight is blocked out, causing a rapid global winter. Acid rain falls from the sky. Snow starts appearing in summer. The moon is now so large, stretched into this weird egg shape, that it causes daily eclipses, plunging the dying world into darkness over and over again. As the moon makes its final approach, it crosses this critical, invisible line in space known as the Roche limit. This is the point of no return. Basically, it's the point where Earth's gravitational pull on the near side of the moon becomes way stronger than the moon's own gravity holding itself together.
So what happens when a celestial body crosses the Roche limit? Well, here's the twist. It doesn't crash. It disintegrates. The whole apocalyptic year doesn't end with a cataclysmic impact, but with a strange and terrible transformation.
Once it crosses that 10,000-kilometer line, the moon just starts to come apart. At first, dust and rocks lift off the surface and start falling to Earth as meteorites. Then, over just a few hours, the entire moon is shredded into trillions of pieces of rubble that spread out across the sky into a spectacular ring system. For any survivors on this shattered Earth, the change is profound. It's permanent. That single point of light we call the moon is just gone forever. In its place, the sky is now crossed by these beautiful, shimmering arches of rock and dust, reflecting sunlight and lighting up the night way more brightly than any full moon ever did. After a year of just unimaginable horror, the immediate threat is over. The Earth is stable again, the earthquakes stop. But what kind of world is left for anyone who actually managed to endure it all? Well, the future is hanging on a knife's edge between two extremes. On one hand, you could have runaway heating. If too much of that new ring stuff rains down as meteors, the friction could superheat the atmosphere and boil the oceans away. On the other hand, you could get runaway cooling. The constant shadows from the new rings, combined with all that volcanic ash, could block so much sunlight that the planet just freezes solid. So in the end, humanity's survival is definitely not guaranteed. Rebuilding any kind of civilization would be an immense, maybe impossible struggle against a violently transformed world. But we can leave it with this one final thought. Whatever challenges they face, whatever future they try to build, at least they will get to try with beautiful rings in the sky.